and Caleb Collier says that this proposal is meant to protect their Second Amendment rights.
I'm proposing that the city of Spokane Valley issue a proclamation stating that our city is a Second Amendment sanctuary city.
Welcome to the fire.
Today on Church and State, we continue to be the platform for news before it is news, and we have the proof.
And we also have live coverage of the Trump indictment and all things related.
Hello, Christian Patriots, and welcome to Church and State, where we strive to plug into politics. I'm your host, Caleb Collier. With me, as always, Pastor Stephen Furtick.
That's right.
So
our last interview, it was either Val Kilmer or Stephen Furtick.
So I never, ever placed this before, but when you have a beard, totally, I see it. Probably is very upsetting. It'd be the equivalent of
I don't know.
Somebody telling him.
I'm down with that.
Yeah, but he's a heretic.
Yeah. More heretic hunting live today at Church and State. Yeah, he definitely off base on a lot of stuff, but yeah, I'll take that compliment all day long. So his church, Elevation Church, Carrie Job and crew, they've revolutionized music, but definitely the platform needs some prayer. Let's just say. So yeah, the other thing too is what we have right now in churches with the tickling ears. It's just like full-time cruise control for tickling ears, and sadly, Stephen Furtick has great hair, but yeah, to say it lightly, his theology's iffy.
Are you saying you have gray hair?
No, great hair. He's got great hair. Yeah,
that's what I said. Great hair.
I have awesome hair. I have hair. What's going on here?
Anyway, all right. Hey, serious subjects on today's episode.
Yeah.
We
had last September.
Oh yeah. So last September we were at the Reawaken America tour. Many of our fans were at that same location, and we had an opportunity to speak with one John Michael Chambers. Now, he had a really interesting revelation.
There you
go. And at the time, we were kind of like, interesting. We'll have to see. We'll have to watch and see if this actually comes true. And then, 2 days ago hit? All of a sudden, the news just went crazy with this. Well, one man in particular was not at all surprised. Gabe, let's go ahead and roll that video clip.
Give me a second here.
Just announced on his Truth Social feed that he will be arrested on Tuesday. But one man is not surprised by this.
President Trump will be indicted and arrested. President Trump, high probability, will be indicted and arrested.
A big arrest will happen. It will be known all over the world. Could this arrest actually be Donald J. Trump?
John Michael Chambers has been saying this for over 6 months now.
99% certainty that this will occur soon. The arrest of Donald Trump.
Yes, the storm is upon us as he continues to take the arrows and the incoming for you, for me, for all of mankind. We pray for you and for your family.
Watch the rest of this story unfold this week on ampnews.us.
So I've actually been on news before,
and
it's a fantastic program. I got to tell you, this really showcases why it is so important for all of you, for the audience, to continue to get their news from alternative sources.
And see this September 2022. You see an image of Caleb and I there at the Reawaken America tour with John. People heard this, and even us. I'll just admit it. We at the time heard it and thought this is absolutely extreme. We were a little on the reluctant side to even like push it, but the thing is, it went viral. A lot of people said this is a hoax. He's been proven right. It's not. I'm going to say this. It's not within the scope of probably the biggest news to ever happen. Here's why. We've never, ever, a former president. We never ever even raided their home before. Okay, that's old news now. Now we have the state of New York. The district attorney, Alvin Bragg, is bringing these charges. And in fact, we'll show you later, New York Police Department, they've already put up barricades because I think they're suggesting that patriots are going to come out and do some type of protest, and there's going to be major pushback, which we're seeing that's all fizzling. I think patriots learned their lesson after J6, and we're going to talk about that. But this is the most important news, and we're gonna break this down on how a lot of this is possibly a false flag, and then some of this is legitimate, and we have to be watching, and you have to have huge discernment and wisdom coming straight from God on this, because people will excise justice when the Justice Department is polluted. And this is proof that this is absolutely lascivious, dark, demonic agenda. So
yeah, I love that you brought up J6, Gabe, because it's a very important point. And not just for this possibly arresting of a former president, and you and I would both argue, Gabe, a current president, because he did win. But it's something for patriots and for very mindful of going forward from post J6. Look, the government is not your friend, and we all know that. But beyond that, like the Ruby Ridge, the Wacos, these used to be the exceptions, right? Every once in a while, the government would rear its ugly head and it would go in and infringe upon your natural rights, and people would die. But they were an exception, and they were a story, and people would follow it for a little while. But now it's the government has turned inward towards us, towards those of us who love the Constitution the most, those of us who want to protect it the most. And so something like this, President Trump calling for people to protest all around the country, in my opinion, is actually extremely dangerous.
yeah, we're gonna break that down. Why, you hear this and you think, the heart in you hears John Michael Chambers say he takes the arrows for us. And the reality is if the Justice Department is being used, weaponized to attack our president, there is no real buffer. We've talked about in the doctrine of lesser magistrates that we have somebody who's supposed to defend us. It's actually our sheriff. That's our first line of defense. Well, many of us, like even in our own area here, we have an absolutely retarded sheriff, I'm just going to say. Okay.
Are you talking about post or current?
Oh, former.
Yeah. Okay.
We still could have a better sheriff.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll be honest.
I don't know their current one all that well. He hasn't really done all that much to where we can see where he's going to align.
But now Donald Trump is off the board as far as he's getting hit with arrows. But the thing is, we can't just jump off a cliff and try to rescue him. It has to be succinct, has to be in unity. Can't be something that just a few fringe of us do. So, but this article that we found from
the Daily Beast
really
great.
typifies.
Don't you love the Daily Beast?
I do.
No,
and then,
I don't. Nobody likes the Daily Beast.
And then, but I like what they Jesse Kelly says the truth in this. The title of it from the Daily Beast, I'm going to put it up here on the live stream so everybody can see it. Why don't you read the title there?
Yeah. Officials prep for protests at MAGA as MAGA sycophants push Patriot moat around Mar-a-Lago. So I love how they talk about this, but what it was obviously Trump announced on Truth Social that he is going to be arrested on Tuesday. Well, that's today. We're recording Tuesday. And do you think he's going to get arrested? I mean, that's the question everybody's asking right off the bat.
That's a great question. I actually think if he does get arrested, like, it won't be in cuffs. What will happen is he will be escorted from Mar-a-Lago. And if he goes on his own volition, that makes me a little suspect. If there's a tussle, that would tell me that this is legitimate. But he would be taken on a plane from Miami to New York, and that's where the beginning of this indictment would start.
Elon Musk had a great point on this. Yeah. I don't know if you saw his tweet on this, but Elon Musk actually said, if you arrest him, you will ensure that he is the next president.
Right. Yep.
And I mean, I completely agree with that.
True.
I was talking to an individual today, and he had a great statement. He said, for the secular world, Elon Musk has become almost a prophet.
Oh yeah, he's a savant.
Yes. And so I do agree with him. And I think perhaps the powers that be are a little bit worried about that now. I don't think it was until Elon Musk actually tweeted that they realized, holy cow, we could actually be doing ourselves more damage if we arrest him. So I'm not entirely sure that he will be arrested. If he does, it is then that patriots need to, across the entire nation, speak up, be very vocal, but be very, very careful as well as far as getting involved in protests. And this is coming from a guy that has done protests all over this area.
Right.
Right.
And he called specifically protest. And the Truth Social tweet that he tweeted, it's not a tweet that he put out. He said to protest. That's his words. And to me, the idea of using a protective barrier of people is extremely dangerous.
It is.
And there's an opportunity for people to get hurt. They're calling for like 100,000 patriots should just shut down all routes to Mar-a-Lago. And that's what they're hoping to happen. I'm trying to get a live feed of Mar-a-Lago if there's any way for me to do that. So, but
yeah, let me read this tweet from Jesse
ahead.
Kelly. You know, Gabe, that I'm a big fan of Jesse Kelly's.
He had a great point.
He did. And Jesse Kelly, for those of you who don't know, unfortunately, he's on at the exact same time that we're on. So I don't know if I want to point people over to watch Jesse Kelly. But no. Jesse Kelly is a fantastic radio personality. He goes and says things that normal people on the air can't touch. Like when you get mad at people like Sean Hannity, who's just basically giving you Republican talking points, Kelly, on the other hand, will say things like, don't get vaccinated. Plus, he's hilarious. And I don't just love him because he's a Marine. That might be part of it as well. But he's a 6'8" giant that likes cheese whiz and things. But he said this in a tweet. The last time Trump's biggest fans protested on his behalf, he left them all to rot in jail without so much as a penny from him in legal fees. It says right-wing pundit Jesse Kelly wrote, not a penny. Shame on him for this. Do not go to a blue area and protest for this man. Ignore this. So specifically, not going to a blue area. And this is something that, this national divorce idea, this idea that America is already two separate nations. Jesse Kelly's been very big on this, especially since I've been listening to him. I agree with his assessment. Don't go to a blue area. Do not go to Washington, D.C. Do not, where we're at, go over to Olympia and protest something like this. Have no part in that because they are clearly the enemy. Now, if you want to do a rally together in Idaho or Tennessee or Texas or something like that, you're probably okay. Steve Bannon as well actually said that we need to don't be stupid.
Yeah. We got a live feed right now. Those of you who are on with us, this is it looks like a small gathering. Caleb, if you want to peek your head over here.
Yeah.
To me, this looks fringy. I don't know. We got all the Trump. Look at all the Trump stuff going on here.
Country, and I love this country. I was born and raised right here in Florida. I'm a true Floridian.
This is in
so
Florida.
To have someone that truly loves this nation,
this. We're gonna keep track of this. This looks like narrative.
I expected that people would show up and have a massive showing of support for President Trump. I mean, he's loved. That's the thing. He is loved by many in this nation.
Father's heart.
Yeah, keep going.
All right. While we're on Florida, Gabe, I did want to talk a little bit about DeSantis here.
Well, before we jump to that, we have to have some type of counterbalance to Jesse Kelly says, "Hey, don't do anything."
Mm-hmm.
We will come to DeSantis, but also there's a reality that justice has to be served, and we're seeing right now justice being grabbed by the throat and strangled, and everyone wants a sense of justice. Last night, Tucker had on his show, he had a very observant point about justice and what happens when it isn't served. And to me, Caleb, I think we do have to be worried. We've said the term false flag ad nauseum. But there is a point where there's going to be a real event that happens. And it's because the exacerbation of truth and justice. And I think, Tucker hit the nail on the head last night when he addressed this. So I'm just going to play. This is the second half of kind of a rant, I would describe it.
But either way, Donald Trump's former job as president of the United States is not really the point here. Yes, of course you can indict former presidents if they've done something wrong. That's not what this is about. The headline here is that there is as noted, a presidential race in progress right now. And if you check the polls, you will find that Trump is leading the Republican field. That's the unprecedented thing. Taking out your opponent using the justice system. If the Democratic Party is allowed to do this, allowed to crush the presidential frontrunner, the main threat to their power, with a bogus criminal case, where does that leave us? We're done. Because that precedent will live forever. And voters will never again determine the outcome of a presidential election.
And I do have to say, you know, that if that does happen, let's just say the fulfillment of what Tucker just said, Elon Musk's statement is off the table. If they do arrest him and he's unelectable because of some type of like actual prosecution, you know, obviously you can't run for president if you've been prosecuted on a state level or, you know, obviously a federal level. You know, of course, the case would have to stick and he would have to, you know, all the charges would have to stick, which I don't even think they would stick, but let's just say it does. If the federal case or state case lost, he would be, you know, the most famous and electable president because he'd be able to say, "Hey, they tried, they came for me and lost."
They would effectively turn him into a martyr.
Right.
And I don't know if it's. I mean, you know what? Hate is so blinding and will make you do such incredibly stupid things that I was gonna say I don't see them doing that. But honestly, they're influenced by the devil, and it's just it's pure chaos,
ravenous.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
So maybe they will go after.
They
him.
were so my wife and I. It's interesting you say this, Caleb. My wife and I were talking about because we didn't see John Michael Chambers' prediction come true and AMP, and I actually was like, holy cow, this is genius. They're leaving him alone, and that's kind of the best way to squash out, you know, in firefighting a grease fire. You don't actually throw water on it. You suppress it with like a towel. Like you literally
just starve it of oxygen.
Starve it of oxygen, exactly. So like the whole entire Trump phenomenon was being starved of oxygen post-September because guess what? The media wasn't giving him like 2 cents of, you know, no interest whatsoever. And to me, I thought that was genius. Now he's back in the light. And to me, it shows me their pride and arrogance is you know, it could be to this too. Everybody's saying the banking crisis that's going down. This is maybe a deflection from, you know, we've seen Silicon Valley Bank, we've seen Swiss, we've seen all these banks being sold for pennies on the dollar. Banks that had a $70 million market cap 10 years ago, now going for 70 billion going for 2 billion. So wholesale banks going up right now. Let's finish the rest of this because what he says about justice is really key.
It's remarkable when you think about it. So after all the yelling from permanent Washington about January 6th and how it was a threat to our democratic norms and the peaceful transfer of power, they've decided to completely short circuit our democratic norms, not to mention the peaceful transfer of power using the courts and prosecutors. What happens if they get away with this? No one seems to be thinking this through. Everyone's all spun up, but what happens if they get away with this? If they use the Justice Department in full view of everyone to settle a political score and to keep the White House, just to take a guy out of the race who seems to be doing fairly well, we'll destroy the justice system. And that's not a small thing. A functioning justice system has kept this country peaceful for hundreds of years. The purpose of a justice system is to administer justice so that citizens don't have to do it themselves. Of course, that duty to the government. But what happens when you take that away? When there is no justice system?
Right.
What happens when the Department of Justice decides that its goal is not justice, but protecting the ruling class at all costs? Think about that. People are still going to demand justice.
Yep.
The desire for justice is an inherent human desire. We are born with it. But if there's no neutral place to do it, some people decide they're going to have to do it themselves.
That is.
Ooh.
That's what they're pushing.
Now, we don't know exactly what that's going to look like.
The fear.
But we can say for certain it's going to be really ugly.
It's civil war idea.
So they hate Donald Trump.
Continuing push. So go ahead and pause that. I agree with his assessment right there that we are getting pushed. And it's something that you and I, Gabe, have talked about multiple times on different shows, that we don't want to see our country get to the point where we start taking up arms against our brothers and our sisters. We don't want to engage in a second civil war. Unfortunately, if they start doing that, we've already seen the weaponization of so many of the alphabet agencies out there. And now they're looking at going after the Justice Department. it will push the envelope to such a point where all it takes is that one single event,
Right.
that one Lexington and Concord once again, right? Or Civil War, that firing upon the ship from what is that, Fort Sumter, I think.
Yeah.
That's all it takes, and boom, we're in a war.
Well,
And we are at that point, Gabe, where it could happen like that.
it's interesting. We're watching simultaneously New York and Florida, because Mar-a-Lago is, of course, where Trump is at. But your boss, Charlie Kirk, tweeted this morning. It says, happening now, New York PD is setting up barricades outside Manhattan Criminal Court ahead of Trump's arrest. This is, I don't think anything's going to happen. You can kind of see in the background, you can see people moving around.
Yeah, this is smoke and mirrors, man. This is all theater.
So far, I think New York is just trying to drum up attention. This Alvin Bragg, let's talk about him for a second. He is the district attorney in New York State.
Funded by Soros.
Funded by Soros. He's also African American. I have to point that out. It makes him a great visual piece for the media, because, of course, he's a person of color, and he's holding Trump to the fire. So this reeks. Absolutely reeks. But then to the other, okay, we also got a focal point called Ron DeSantis. We've got about 7 minutes. We've talked about the whole circus that this is. Ron DeSantis calls it a circus, but the thing is, don't you think this man should be sticking up right now? Stu Peters has called him out big time.
No. There's something that just doesn't smell right. It doesn't pass the sniff test. And look, if the globalists are as intelligent as we believe that they are, and obviously just looking throughout history, they wouldn't have gotten to the point where we're at right now if they weren't highly focused and highly intellectual. So if they see Trump for what he is, and the greater MAGA movement for exactly what it is, then they have to co-opt it.
Yeah.
Right? They cannot allow Trump to still be in charge of it, but they need somebody to come in and take the reins, and then they can start pushing that or navigating that the way that they want. Right? That's all it takes, is one powerful, energetic, well-spoken leader
In terms of
totally take over the MAGA movement. And I'm starting to be suspicious now. I'm not making a claim here at all, because there is still a lot to like about DeSantis.
Yeah.
But it's seeming to be like this might be that guy. When you start getting the support of the Bushes and other globalists, I start to question who you are. Now, when he had a real opportunity here, Gabe, and I'm going to take this right back to you and I. Okay, when our friend Matt Buster, when his boys got scooped up in that absolute garbage Patriot Front thing over in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, conventional wisdom would have told you and I to completely distance ourselves from him.
Mm-hmm.
What did you and I do? We said, not only is he our friend, he's a great friend, right? Totally killing the story.
Exactly.
That's the opportunity that DeSantis had right here, where he could have said, Donald Trump is a resident of the state of Florida. And because of that, I don't care that we're running. We're both announced that we're running for president. I don't care. He's got my full support. And you know what people would have done? I love that guy.
Yeah.
That's my candidate. They would have loved him even more. They would have said, because of that, I'm voting for DeSantis now.
Well, listen to his
But instead,
response.
this is what he says. Go ahead.
we are not involved in this.
And he was asked this, just so everybody knows, I'm not faking this, but he was asked what was his thoughts on what's going on today. This is the press conference today addressing what's going down in Mar-a-Lago.
Won't be involved in this. I have no interest in getting involved in some type of manufactured circus by some Soros DA.
See, a little bit of truth.
Yeah, and his voice sounds a little shaky. Just
it does sound a little bit shaky. But I mean, whoever wrote this for him, though, Gabe, they added some truth, right? Soros DA. Those are some buzzwords for the Patriots that are like, okay, yeah, that's good, that's good. But what about Trump? Keep going.
Trying to do a political spectacle. He's trying to virtue signal for his base. I've got real issues.
And he's not talking about Trump there. He's talking about the district attorney, Alvin Bragg. virtue signaling to his leftist base.
I got to deal with here in the state of Florida. We're obviously shutting down CBDC, which is important. We've got so many things pending in front of the legislature. I've got to spend my time on issues that actually matter to people. I can't spend my time worrying about things of that nature. So we're not going to be involved in it in any way. I'm fighting for Floridians, and I'm fighting.
Time out. Donald Trump is a Floridian, you
yes,
idiot. I'm sorry. I'm just going to call you an idiot right there.
He is a Floridian. And the other thing, when he said that he's going to concentrate on things that people think are important,
this is
the arrest of the former president, some would argue still sitting president of the United States of America, is very relevant, Gabe. Yeah. Very relevant.
Back against Biden. That's what I do every single day.
He fights against Biden every single day, which is great.
I mean, there's a reason why people are moving in droves to Florida, Gabe. It's because DeSantis has been a fantastic governor. But here's the thing. The governor, the position of governor should be enough. Like, I want a governor that is a rock solid governor that says, all I want is to make sure my state is the best state. Like, we have to be very mindful of that 10th Amendment and the power that each individual state has, but yet it's not. Unfortunately, in this political system, the governor is just a stepping stone towards becoming president because everybody wants that all-powerful position. I mean, for me, I would be more than happy to be the steward of a state and take that state and to throw it into the free market and to allow it to be successful just by removing my hand. Right? Just by saying, you know what, in our state, we're going to let the free market be successful and we're going to watch as our state booms. And DeSantis was doing that so well in Florida, but no, he's not content with that. He's got to run for president.
And as you can see right now, we have video of people right now in Florida. It doesn't look a lot of them, but they cared. This is something he could have been embracing. And it tells me he's been told how to play his cards. It's very apparent he's being told, and maybe that's his wisdom. Maybe it's his wisdom because he cares about winning himself.
I just want presidents. I just want people that are running for political power to not actually want it. I want a return back to the founding fathers, or even go a little bit closer into history. Calvin Coolidge, people like that, they didn't even want the power. They didn't want it. They had to beg for Patrick Henry to run for governor. He said, I'm done with it. George Washington just wanted to retire. I'm done. We don't have that anymore. Now people desire power more than anything else, and they'll do whatever it takes. They'll stomp on whoever it is needed in order to get that power. And that's something I'm seeing out of DeSantis, and I'm just not pleased with it at all, Gabe.
Yeah, well, this is going to be something to very closely watch for the next 24 hours, so be praying.
Amen. Church and State is sponsored in part by the Constitution Power, empowering you to put faith into action. And with that, Church and State is out.
God bless.